I'm up at our ranch, which is high up in the mountains in a town of about 500 people on one side and, well, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people on the other side. And we pick this for a reason. You know, people are looking for, where can I live? Where can I live? We pick this area for a reason because they're farmers. They're people that still work with the soil. They still rely on God. Farmers rely on one another, and they take care of their own. And this town is wide awake. I mean, they're talking about making a smoker to be able to smoke meat, just to be able to have it and use it now. But if things go bad, you'd be able to preserve meat. They just started in Malad. They just started this last weekend a farmer's market, which, they were like, I don't know how many people are going to come this weekend. I don't know, how this is going to go over. It went well this weekend. But the reason why they're doing it is because they know that we need to start growing and thinking locally. They know that, the trucks could stop coming, or the trains could stop coming from the cities, and we all need to eat. I would urge you, if you are in a town, to do what they have done. Start a farmer's market if you don't have one. Start attending a farmer's market. Start growing your own food. If you're looking to move, find a very small town, particularly of farmers. And if you can find farmers who are also religious, the Amish would be a great place to live if it wasn't so close to the East Coast. Finding people who have values that are entrenched, generationally entrenched, and that they're not worried about their stuff. They're not worried about anything. You can find these communities. They are there. And it is important that we are living around like-minded people, because it's going to get harder and harder. I remember I went to a Catholic school when I was young, and I remember thinking about, the end of days and, Jesus coming back. And as a kid, that's terribly frightening. It's terribly frightening. And I remember in 2 Timothy, or 2 Timothys, if you will, when in 2 Timothy, he describes what things are going to be like. And I really had a hard time. I had to project out and say, I could see that happening. If you've ever thought that before, I want you to listen carefully and tell me you don't have to project out anymore. But understand this, that in the last days will come of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self. Absolutely true. Even the best of us, I have a hard time, and I know kids are always, me. But I'm concerned at times with my own kids that they don't necessarily focus on others as much as they should. And neither do I. Lovers of self. They're lovers of money. They're proud. They're arrogant. They're abusive. They're disobedient to their parents. They're ungrateful. They're unholy. They're heartless, unappeasable. Listen to that one. They're slanderous, without self-control. They're brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness. Think of that one. Having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. May I just say, Joe Biden saying how he is the guy to stand up for the right and the good. He is the righteous one. Do you remember all of the things that he said during the campaign that I'm like, oh my gosh, who would say this? That he's the light, but also he's the guy who stood up and said, there are no miracles coming. Avoid such people, it says, for among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women. Now listen to this, weak women. How outrageous, weak women. Burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never able to arrive at the knowledge of truth. These men will oppose the truth, men corrupted in mind, disqualified regarding the faith. And then there's this line, they won't get very far, for their folly will be plain for all to see. Now, I think it is plain for all to see, but how many people have lost themselves in some of these descriptions of the people who are going to be causing the difficulty? So in thinking about this, I mean, that's describing what, was coming, which I think is here. All of those descriptions, I could do an hour monologue on just those descriptions, and I can show you how all of us are living some of those horrible things, and some of us and some, rulers are living all of them right now. So if that's what you're not supposed to do, if that's what you're avoiding, what should we be concentrating on? Because I will tell you, just like George Washington in the Badge of Merit, we will not be able to conquer this evil unless we are on God's side. If we don't have divine providence, we will not be able to survive. The things that are arrayed in front of us are no greater, no less than what our founders had arrayed against them. It's a little more difficult because of technology, but they had spies living in their home. We have spies living in our home. We have the government living in our home, listening to Amazon, Alexa or whoever. So what do we do? Well, people will be lovers of themselves. So then that would mean we need to love our neighbor, even if we don't like them. I joined my church, and I urge you to find something in your life that will help you do this. But I joined my church because a guy who I had dubbed the amazing Mr. Plastic Man. I still remember his name, Lenny Asciuto. And I didn't think he was real, because the first time he said something to me, he said, "I just love you so much." And I was like, "Oh, back off, dude. Give me 10 minutes and you'll hate my guts." I was more of a dry drunk at this point. But he had the perfect family, the perfect children. They all played the piano. They were all smiles. And I thought, no one can be like that. No one can be that happy. No one. And one Sunday he was teaching class. And I was being stubborn because I didn't want to go to church every Sunday. I didn't want to join a church. I hadn't joined anything my entire life. I didn't want to join a church. And Pat will recall, around this time when I was heavily drinking and until I changed my ways, my slogan was, Pat, what did we used to always say my slogan was?
I hate people.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be that way. And it was coming from me, and I knew it. And Lenny was teaching a class, and he said, "Brethren, how do we get to this place where it's Zion, where it's bliss? How do we get there? What do we have to do to build it?" And a lot of people had answers, but none of them really stuck. And then he said, with tears in his eyes, "There's only one way. If I love you and you love me, We may not know each other. We may not like each other. We may have just met, but we've found a way to look into each other's eyes and see the same spirit, the same spark that is in the other. And we recognize it. And therefore, we love others. And I realized this guy was not plastic at all. He was the most genuine man I had ever met. That was the day I decided that I wanted to be like that. And I didn't care what it took to be like that, but I wanted to be that way. If the people are going to be lovers of themselves, then we have to find that way to love one another, even those we don't like. Remember, even in the Civil War, the one reason why Lincoln wasn't universally loved, well, there was a lot of reasons, which is weird. None of them involved the wart or the beard. I guess they were better people than we were back then. I don't know, because we would never have a president that looked like that now. But he preached love and healing. That's his second inaugural address. It's all about healing. And you know what? If we lose this, it's because God's ordained it. If we lose this war because we've shed too much blood of the slave, well, then we lose this war. But let's love each other. Let's do the right. Let's heal the wounds. That could never be said today. If you're going to be lovers of money, if that's what the people we're supposed to avoid, then we can't love money. We must not love things. We must love people. If the world is loving things over people, we must love people over things. People are going to be boastful and proud. We need to be humble and quiet. Basically, you need to be the opposite of me. You need to be humble. If they're going to be abusive, we need to be complimentary. So there are examples all around us of how you fight against evil, and you must not become evil itself. You know, we didn't out evil the Nazis, although we did take a step towards that with the Japanese internment camps. We didn't out-evil them. We just beat them. And we didn't out-evil them, even though if you're in high school or college and you're listening right now, I know that your AP class, your AP history class, picks up World War II at the dropping of the atomic bomb. And you're supposed to learn that made the world question the moral authority of this nation. None of that is true. None of that is true. We dropped millions of leaflets on Japan, begging them to stop, telling them Nagasaki and Hiroshima were on the list of cities to be bombed. If you're in those cities, bring food and water and get out immediately. Because we have a bomb that is the most terrible thing you could imagine. And if you don't get the emperor to surrender, we will drop it. Please leave those cities. So all this bullcrap of questioning us is a lie. It's a lie. But how do we fight? Well, if you look at 2 Timothy 3, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive. You're not going to get anywhere with anyone in today's world if you are abusing them. If you are saying, well, you didn't, or your side, you're not going to get anywhere. They're immediately going to shut down. And that is why you're being trained to live that way. You're being trained right now by the media and social media to immediately respond with something, oh, yeah? We're being trained to win. We will lose if we try to win. We will win if we stand up and do the right thing because it's right. and to be complimentary. Our mother, everything our mothers taught us, most of it is right. I say most of it because I grew up with an alcoholic mother, so some of that wasn't really so good. But we know what they taught was right. If you don't have something nice to say nothing at all. Oh my gosh, this is such a repudiation of me and everything I do. Respect your parents. Disobedient to their parents is what people are going to be like in those days. Respect your parents. I was, again, in Malad, and I met this wonderful lady. She's 95 years old. She was sharp as any knife I had ever seen. And her children, who are my age, just loved her to death. She called them and said, I'm making a jailbreak. I'm getting out of this home, and you got to come pick me up because if I have to, I'll be on the side of the road and I'm walking out of here. And she is home, and our parents have much to teach and much to offer. Honor them.